When I registered yesterday, hold on before you got it up there, good. All right, I got a letter, and I'm going to show you why. It was great that we had it. I didn't go over it yesterday. This letter says, thank you, Gage, for registering for training at international offices. Remember, that was the event that we registered for, where Gage is going to come and join us. Sincerely, your youth ministry team. We're going to go through how they developed that. And if you remember when we set that up, I randomly selected a notice. Remember that? And I was like, guys, when we do it, if you don't have something, they're not going to get an email. Well, if you selected the wrong notice, and you had all this beautiful detail like what we're going to create, some of that, they're not going to get it. They're going to get just a basic or, information about an event you don't have. Whatever's selected, that email comes. The other thing that we're going to show you, notice who it's from. Adine Patterson. And so I love that it says this, and I love that you guys can see this, and I wanted to show you this because there is a place in all notices that you can change your sender's name. Well, if I don't want it to come from, let's say I change youth directors, and Pat Wright is now my new youth director, not Randy Paris. Well, I send the email out, and I forget to change that. Guess who they get the email from? Randy Paris. My email address still comes to me, but it's that. So I wanted to show this to you guys while we're going to see the emails. Again, I wanted to see, because look at the importance of making sure you change the name, especially when you change overseers or directors and you're sending camp responses from them. With that, it's just good to keep in mind at a changeover, or I have a habit, and I'm the only one who sends the emails out. I still click more options and I check it. I'm the only one who touches it. It's a good habit, though, to get into. Don't ever just assume. But I wanted to show you that, because we've talked about this. We showed you that. The other email is right here. So this is showing where we paid. It was the confirmation email that showed one of those payments that we did. Okay? So that's what that would look like. But let's create the notice. So when you're inside CDM, one second. I'm just choking on my tea. When you're in, let's just say, reports, you do regional reports, there's a section there that says notices. If you're in membership, you have a section that says notices. Contributions, notices. So you've got those notices in the different areas. We're going to today, for the sake of what we did yesterday, we're going to focus on the registration one. When you're in these notices, you have a couple of options. Registration letters, obviously, when you create that, they're expecting you to print the letters. So if you wanted to design letters, you can do that in here, so it can pull in, like mail merging the information. You can do that and print it here instead of exporting all of the addresses into your Word document and creating a mail merge. You can do that in here, and it will do it for you, because remember, you can put your logo, you can lay it out, and you'll see here it's just like a little Word document. But you can put different fields. So if you were wanting to send a mail out that had more personalized information, that's where you would want to use letters, whether it is address letters, individual letters, registration, contribution. When you see and it says letters, that's for you to print that out. Cards are going to be the same thing, they're just a different layout. It's not going to be a full sheet. You have kind of like labels, okay? For the sake of today, we're going to do emails. That being said, we want the email that gets sent after they register, right? I don't want to send them an email. If I create an activity email, that's not going to go to them after they register. Registration email is what gets mailed to them after they registered. Okay? That's what pulls that list. That's what generates that list when we were in Web Ministry Tools. So today, let's click on registration emails. And what you're going to see in here, whoops, wrong way. you got the list of all of your events that are active. If I wanted it to show the closed events, I can click this, and it would show me my closed events. And in this database, they don't have any closed. You can, and this is if you were wanting to just send an email. Let's not talk about it as a confirmation email. Let's just say, because in events, you can choose like your date range. So I send my emails out this week to those who I manually registered, right? I need to go in here and I need to select them. But I don't want the next week to send those same people the email. So I want to put a date range in. And that's going to give you people that you entered in within that day, or date range, whatever it is that you've done with it. So if you do it daily, enter them in, put in your date there, and send the email out from there. That way you can catch and not, do it that way. You can do canceled, not canceled. Those are just some different options. Now, if you're in here, this is where you want to focus on, okay? Right now, this is the email that was kind of in, and I was playing with it some even this morning. Well, this isn't the email I want to send. I need to create a new one, have a new event. Up at the top, you have select/add. You can, and this is great to think about. When we're in here, notice you got one that says from 2019, or you just have missing permission form. You've generalized. You do not need to recreate one every year, the same one. Make it generic in the sense of your title. So like if you do 2019, you could still use it and edit it. Or don't put the date on and use VBS confirmation every year and edit it to adjust the dates. So like let's take my chili cook-off. I have an email for them and it sends them that. Well, last year we did it too, right? I don't need to recreate that email. I can just go in and edit the date and send it and choose that again. I do the same for like my women, for like individual emails. We have a ladies' Bible study. I don't have to recreate it every time. I just go in there, I adjust the date for whatever chapter that we're on, and I send the email. It's just another time saver, and it keeps you from having to fill up all of these of different dates and then clean it up. You don't need to recreate the wheel. Remember, we're about saving time so that we can be more productive with the things that we do. Well, one way to do that is to not feel like you have to recreate every time. You can go in and edit. On the left, categories, you can choose to have a category for youth. They don't have any of them here. So let's just say we'll do members. If I want to add the registration notice there, it just categorizes, so you don't have this list. You can still click all and see all of them together, or your emails do add up more than you realize. Like I have connections, email category, or I have events or youth or children, and then I put the notices in there so that I can quickly go and find that instead of going through the sea of notices. Again, there's no wrong way, but if you're one who likes to organize things and you have folders, in your computer, and your folder has folders inside of it, and they all have everything. I see some heads going, yep, that's me. Then you'll like that. If you're the kind that everything you've saved is all on your desktop and you can't see your desktop, you might not really care. Personality, is that you, Jan? Oh, I was like, I saw you nod, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I can't either. I can't stand it. One time I opened up a computer for somebody. It wasn't even for work. It was before I worked here. I couldn't see the desktop, and it actually slid pages. I was like, how do you find anything? Can I help you? I would like to help you with this. It was bothering me a lot. But listen, I can't stand the little numbers on your phone, oh my gosh. If there is a number on it, I can't. I have to at least clear it. The only time I leave them is if I need to respond to the text message, because I know I'm going to get it, because I can't handle it. I just can't. So having it all over my desktop. So I like mine organized. So you can do that, and you can get as detailed as you want. Sometimes I know we can get a little too detailed in it, but that's what these are for, okay? So let's just add one here. Yes.
Will you just go back one step and then just go back to that page?
Yeah. Oh, you mean how I got here?
That page right
Absolutely. This select add button right here. When you click that, so think of it this way. I'm either selecting my email I want to send or I'm adding a new email that I want to send. So you choose that select/add and it says, okay, where is that at? So we come in here. I want to put it under, youth group. Let's do that. When you click add, we're going to do training confirmation. So I titled it so I know what it is. Notice I didn't put a date on it. And again, you can. It is not a problem at all, but I want to show you how it's not necessary. The other thing that you really want to think about, these little buttons here, view access and modify access. If you want your secretary or somebody else when they log in to be able to view it but not make changes, you can come in here and you can set it for public, or you can do selected and you can choose, this is the list of our login users that we have. If you don't come in here and it's set for private and you ask your secretary or you ask somebody else to log in and, oh yeah, just grab that letter, I got that all typed and ready for you, they can't see it. Okay? So go to the view access so they can see it. The other though is modify. I want them to see it. I don't want them to change it because I've got it the way it is and I'd rather them not do that. If that's something you want to do, you can go to modify access and leave that as private and they can see it if you gave them access in the view, but they can't edit anything in there. Or you can allow just one person to be able to edit. The reason though this is very important is if you do have other people in the office that you guys share emails, or they're creating one and you're like, hey, listen, you don't need to recreate it. I kind of have a good shell you could use. You just go ahead and go on in there and just use that one, just change that date because this time they're overseeing that particular event. They can't see it. Or they can't make the change depending on how you have it set. Now, if you forgot and they don't see it, they open it up and they're like, there are no emails in here or there are no letters in here. Don't panic. Log in on yours, look, if you see it, which you would, go to the view or the modify access and do accordingly whatever you need. Okay? Yes?
in the transition of things, we have youth secretaries that come and go and they'll do a report. Okay, when they leave and they are the ones that modify, how do we change it so the next person can?
Okay, so the question is, it is a question. Your youth secretaries, you got a new youth secretary. And the prior youth secretary did this. They didn't set this, so you can't make those changes. How do you go ahead and do that? At that point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, I know with sets, you can change the permissions. But with notices, they would have to get into that prior secretary's thing. Is there a way in administration to do it? That's what I was wondering. In administration, let's just go do that real quick, because that happens a lot. I just didn't want to open up administration if that wasn't the case, and I couldn't remember. If you have it with sets, like on custom listings, you can do it in administration too. You can change who the owner is of it so that you can edit it. And in administration, you can do it for notices as well. When it comes up, be patient. This is also tomorrow when we go over mobile. This is where you would set the mobile up. Administration is also where you can add your users and give them permissions and things like that. There is notices. So in here, you click on notices and you can give that access. So here you can choose who the owner is in the last sent, whether it's published or not. That way you can go in and make that change and put it to the new secretary or whomever you want. Okay? And the same, since we're in here, the same goes for sets. So if you do custom listings, which we're going to create one here, it is the same thing. You change who the owner is. So if you are the owner of the custom listing, then you can edit it. You can make changes to it. As long as it's published, everybody can see it, but unless you're the owner, you can't make a change to that set. Okay? And same then with the notices. Great question. All right, let's go back. I would be honest, I don't think I've ever had a phone call on having them change that with notices. That was a great question, though. I was going to say, I know people have struggled with it, but we definitely have never had a call on that. All my years. Yeah, it's exactly what they do. They create a new one. They're like, well, I guess it's just not there. Reports. All right. Let's go back to our notices here. I almost jumped us a step. All right, so we've got our notice here created. I'm going to just make everything public. The info tab, just so you know, just kind of gives you the category it's in, who created that notice. So if you did need to go in and say who made this or who, what have you, when was the last time we used it, that info gives you that information. Okay? If you need, while we're in this window, you can duplicate it. So if you did want it by year and you wanted to keep it by year, when you click duplicate, it does that very thing. It duplicates it. Yes, ma'am? So if you highlight, it doesn't have the delete option. Oh, master coding system. So when we go up here, I'll show you since it gets annoying when it gets filled up. It's another question I've never had. Those are the activities. Alex? Oh, here it is. Notice category. Under all notice category, because, and that makes sense, this category is carried to everything, not just events. So when you're in here, just like anything else in our master coding system, you can hit the red X and it will delete it straight out of there. Okay? You can create them here. You can create them on the fly there, where there's this window. You can do all that. Now, keep in mind, though, if you are the use secretary, you're in registration notices, and you're like, I don't need these categories. If you delete them, you might have had a secretary who handles it for membership that really leaned on that or was going to start using it. Just keep that in mind. Whatever you do, it goes across the board with it. All right, so we've got our notice created. You can rename them if you want. You can delete the notice, and so on. So let's go ahead and click Choose. Now I have this blank slate. The email is up there. That's the title of it. The subject is what I want it to say when they get the email. So, for example, when you're up here and you go to the email, looking forward to seeing you at camp. That would have been typed right in here. Okay? It would be non-categorized that they've done. Mm-hmm.
What happens there? Does it take that notice away from that person, or you just can't recall?
It's just non-categorized. So you can have notices without any category. So like up here, no category, because that category doesn't exist. So you've got them listed like right in here. Or if you're like me and you see a bunch that don't have categories, you start dragging them into the category. So there are a couple buttons down here. When you click Change, this is changing the body of the email. Notice this should look familiar. This window looks very similar to a Word document, right? It's because it is. It's just like one. You can change your font. You can do the font size. You can do all that. You can add, whoops, wrong thing selected here. Let's up the font so everybody can see. You can add a graphic. So like you could put your logo up there. You can resize your logos. So we'll use the graphic here for summer camp. This graphic is 7 inches by 4 inches. I don't really want it that big, but I do want that logo. So I'm going to insert the logo. If you double click it, you've got some things you can do to this logo. And again, if you use Word or processor like that, this type of stuff looks familiar to you. You can have it get in line with text. Right? So you can see there's a lot of things you can do that change and adapt and make it personal for you. Well, we just want the size to not be 6 by 10. So let's just do, 3. You can undo the lock, just very similar to a Word document. And there they are. You can center it, and you can do all that fun stuff. If we're here, we would normally use 16, but because you guys need to see, we're going to use 16. So it's like, dear, now, I want this email personalized, right? I don't want it to say, dear camper. I can, but I've got the ability to personalize it. So I could say, dear Gage, because Gage probably wouldn't appreciate dear Mr. Nelson. He might think he's talking about his dad, right? So we would do dear Gage. So that would be his first name. If you've done any type of like merging, like mail merging and things where you can put in your fields for your letters and stuff, this is exactly what this is. So here are all of the fields for the event registration section. You can choose different, so these were some user fields that were created. So you have event, church, so you got all these different areas for events that you can choose from, or you can do see all, and it will give you kind of all the fields that are available to you. For right now, we're just going to do it this way. I want dear Gage, so I'm going to do dear, and I did a space, because if I don't do a space, the words are going to be together. It doesn't separate them. So then I'll do dear, and I'm going to double click first name, and now it's telling me, just as if you were doing it in other things, that's what's going to autofill. So what it does when they go to register, whatever first name they chose and typed in there is going to fill in there. Does that make sense? It's like that with any field that you want. I mean, you could go and say, hey, it was entered by, it's got your email address, or it's got, all kinds of things with it. So you could do, thank you for registering for camp. We are excited to see you. Now, I could just send that. We kind of saw that when I showed you the other email, right? But what if I want them to see the activities that they registered for? You signed up for blah, blah, blah. And in our case, we did like camp and t-shirt and a roommate preference, right? Well, what if I want him to see those things? So you could go in here. There is registered activity summary. So we could say you registered for, and we'll just do it this way for right now. Very informal letter. And you'll see this is going to list the activities that he registered for. Okay. You could go and you could do, if you wanted to do their last name, their grade, I'm trying to think what else could we do. Oh, their payments. You paid, let's say total payments towards your event and have a balance of that is due the day of camp. See? So It's going to give me what they registered for, the activities that I have, every one of them that they clicked yes for. It's going to tell me how much they paid toward the event and what their balance due is. See how you can use this for anything? And when you're on individuals, I'll show you, there are different fields there. This is just the list of fields for just their registration. You can do all that. You put their contact. We have your contact as so-and-so. Your church is, we can do that. Let's see. I'm just going to say church, and then we'll put church name, just so you can see what that looks like. Okay? You probably wouldn't put that in your email like that, but if I did see all, these are all of the different fields that you can insert into this particular letter. You could go formal with their name, their address, their zip code, all that stuff there, so you know how you can do your formal letters. You can do that. You can do, if you have the deadlines, you can do that. I mean, there's anything you see in this list here can get put in to that particular letter. And it just keeps going. Okay? Now, that being said, there are some in here, narrow it down, it's individual. Do you remember yesterday when we were talking and we were doing the event and we talked about connecting it to an individual record? If they're connected to an individual record, this information will populate. But if they're not connected to an individual record, it can't populate, right? Because the system doesn't have it connected. There's no way for it to grab that information because they're not in the system. So you want to keep that in mind when you're pulling in some information like, baptism date. That's the first thing I saw. When you do that, because one, if it's not in their individual record, it's not going to pull. But two, if they're not connected to an individual record, they're going to say, your baptism date is nothing. Does that make sense? So you want to keep that in mind when you're pulling these fields over. If you can use address, but you want to make sure you do those things under, you don't want to go and pull the individual stuff if you're not connecting. If you like half and half, that's fine. Just, again, remember, not everybody is connected to one. Okay? Any questions so far? If I wanted to change the color, over here is color. I can change that. I can make it bold. I can make it, oh boy. We can change the font. I'm not going to go there because it would just be, and it'll do that. Your alignment and spacing, just like a document. Center it, all that kind of stuff. You can format your page. There's just all kinds of things in that sense that you can insert and play with. Okay? If for some reason this palette disappears, don't panic. Just click palette. It'll bring it back up. Okay? These little buttons you can do. So let's say, this is a good one. Click here for our site. What about I have, a link I need them to go to? Because maybe it's got the documents that they can download and print or what have you. Or they need to, let's take this out of registration. I'm doing an individual email. And I'm letting them know about an event coming up. And I want them to click on that email so that they can go to my website and register. So I'm sending that to them. You can make anything you want, any words you want as the hyperlink. Let's just, for the sake of this, we'll just do the whole sentence just to show you it doesn't have to be one thing. If I want to make that a hyperlink. So you can copy and paste, or you can do that almost every single time I make one, and I do it at the church often. So you can do the display your text, and you can put your URL there. So let's just say, let's go to our link. So I want them to, if we're doing an individual email, I want them to go to, come on. If I can click right. On the hyperlink, I'm going to paste that there. Okay? So now it becomes a hyperlink that they can click on. I'll have to say, this has been awesome for my church. This would be great for camp emails, women's events emails, mission trips. When you're sending them an email about everything and you wanted to do it inside CDM like for their individual records or to churches so that they can register, you can do it inside CDM. So then you can go to that person's individual record to see if they got the notice. Did I send them that notice because they're telling me they didn't get one? You can see if they did it. You can resend it. You can do those things because you did it in CDM versus going out to your email provider and sending them that way. You can do it inside CDM. Anything you do in CDM, you can keep track of. So I'd be able to see that we sent these notices. Or in our individual records at the church, I can look and see I sent all these ladies, oh, this one girl didn't get it. I can see that. You know, so when I'm sending my events for my ladies' Bible study for Zoom, guess what? They have the Zoom link right there in my email. And then we click it, and they can click it that day, and they have it. Then I also, side note, you'll hear tomorrow, I send them a text out of CDM Mobile and do it that way. Now, you can't put a hyperlink in there. I have a story up for that because it just doesn't do well with the hyperlink for text, so I kind of do it a little different. But I send my group text messages out from CDM Mobile all the time. And I can tell you our Ohio AB does because we get them every once in a while. Yes? So the question is, can you import a letter that you've already had typed from like Word or something? You can copy and paste it for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've seen people do that.
We used this in the past, and maybe this has been updated. We switched over to constant contact because our emails kept getting spammed.
So if your emails kept getting spammed when you sent them,
Because they were group, multiple tests, there were multiple emails going out from a .org, and we ended up getting blocked. The people didn't block it, but just in general got blocked as spam. Because it was a bulk email.
because it was a box, did you send them individually or did you send it as a group?
We've done both.
And it still has it spammed? Is some of that SMTP to go on our side if they're with us? I'm going to let Alex address that because he would be the man for that.
It's been a while, but
Yeah.
we don't have to pay constant contact membership.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To not have to type emails in.
Yeah. And I know email providers are a little wonky, and he's usually my guy of, can you check this? Why is this getting blocked for people? He has great little things
right.
turning me off and on.
So yeah, if you send it individually, which if you embed any fields will automatically happen because each email has to be customized, that will help reduce this being seen as a bulk message. The other thing is we do offer an SMTP hosting, so you need some kind of server to actually send the emails out. We will provide that free of charge built in. What that does require is for you to verify your sending domain, and that's the part of your email after the @ So if my email is alex@suran.com, the domain is suran.com. If it's so-and-so at westvirginiacog.org, it's westvirginiacog.org. The trick with that is you need to know who can make changes to what's called a DNS setting. We can help. It's a little bit more technical, but this is a industry requirement to prevent spamming. So when you use someone like Constant Contact, they're actually sending it through their servers and setting it up as a reply to back to your address. With all of this, with our SMTP hosting, you can't use something like from gmail.com because Gmail wants to control that email, which makes sense. So we can help with all of this, but what you're working with there is an issue called deliverability. If you have a verified sending domain that says, yes, I own this domain, if somebody is legitimately sending spam, you're saying, yeah, that's on me to take care of. But that should resolve pretty much any deliverability issues you're seeing.
Eliminate people unsubscribing.
Yes, it should as well. Yes.
So the thing with that, if you are with RSMTP hosting, and correct me if I'm wrong, and they're getting it bounced like that as spam, that's when you reach out to us and we'll give you that sending domain information so they can verify the sending domain.
Yes, and that there's actually a requirement from SMTP to go coming later this year that we'll have to get everyone verified, or coming sometime in the future.
That's even better.
But if somebody's actually bouncing or sending spam reports, we'll notify you every week who those are. I just got the list last night and passed it over to the team this morning to notify folks.
So that being said, if you have wvcog.org and you guys aren't using RSMTP hosting, I'd really want to encourage you to let us do that so that we can monitor that for you.
Correct.
So you don't have to use constant contacts anymore.
Yeah. And
That's a
the
great
SMTP
question.
hosting, again, built in, there's no extra cost to that.
And it is nice because you don't have to think about it. We got it set up, it's done. You just send it out. It's really great. So thank you. I
You're
knew
welcome.
you would definitely be able to handle the sending domain way better than me on that one. Usually he's like, they're just not hosting, or they need the sending domain.
On that topic, we actually moved from Constant Contact to MailChimp at one point. And I'm still paying Constant Contact because I didn't want to lose the history. Is there a strategy when you go to this to hang on to that history, or do you just print that stuff off, or what's your...
So you're wanting a history of people who receive messages from certain times and the messages themselves. That would be a question of what could be exported from MailChimp or Constant Contact and what we could import. Maybe a small fee for us to do that, but as long as we could get out the details, even if it's just this subject was sent to these people on this date, if we can connect that back to emails in the CDM Plus database, that'd be no problem to import. Yeah, so we could definitely do that.
Oh man, listen, our little data service girl, she rocks. She's the sweetest thing. I love her to death, but they can do a lot. There was another question, wasn't there? Yes, ma'am.
So my question would be, one of the reasons why I noticed when I started out at the church before I started out the state office, and we use MailChimp at the church. State office, we use Constant Contact for certain things, CDM for certain things. One of the reasons that we go to platforms like that, I know especially in like the youth department, is the design aspect of it. Is that something that, I mean, I don't see where you have those blocks that you can drop in like you can with Constant Contact, and it is very user friendly. Is that something that you're considering to maybe upgrade in the future to be able to do?
Yeah, I would say medium to long term, there is some work planned to overhaul the interface here. A lot of this actually tracks back to when more communication was printed, doing a letter size and so on. You can put text blocks in here, and you can add content and do some positioning. So certainly is capable to do some of that, but there is some work. It's not quite the next few things we're working on, but it is on the horizon.
Yeah, I will have to say though, the stuff they're working on for next, I'm super excited. Just saying. Thank you very much. Those are great questions because I do see that a lot. I see that with, even in churches, they have to use other things because they were trying and they're struggling. If you've got a domain, just reach out and let us do that for you so we can monitor so they don't get blocked or marked as spam. Is it foolproof and nothing ever gets blocked? No, if they say it or if they mark it as spam, but we can still take care of that. If, let's say, they mark you as spam and then they wonder why they're not getting any emails, they can look and at least see if it's suppressed on our end. And if it's something we can do on our end, we are happy to do that for you. No problem. Okay? Those are really good questions for that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to save this and close it out when it's done. All right, so now we're back at this. Now I can see in the body, you can kind of see it's, it's not super clear, but it's not meant to be. It's not anything we can edit in here. It's just to let you know this is what it is. If you really want to edit it, you really want to read it even clearer, then you can click the change where we were, and it brings you right back to that. The More Options button is going to give you who it's going to. This is, for me, this is important because sometimes I'll scroll through and I'm like, they don't need it, and you check it, but they were just part of that group that I selected. I've got some ladies who've given me 2 and 3 emails, and I know which one is their main one for this and which one is their work one, so I'll go and just do it. In general, especially when you're doing with event registrations, and most of the time, say you're going to send an email to your state council with everything, and with like the minutes and stuff for them to look at, you're not going to deselect somebody. You're going to have everything. But the option to do that is right there. It's in an alphabetical order by their first name. You can also have it sort by the email address. But nothing wrong with doing that, but everybody's email addresses are all over the place. So I like to sort it by last name with it. If you want to add just an additional email for that particular one, so say you're sending it to the council, but you also need to send this email to somebody extra, you can click this add and you can type in their email address and name so that they can get those, say, state council minutes as well for that particular time. You can do a mass select and deselect on here. Remember the email name? Let me zoom this in. I guess you guys would like to see. Remember the email name said Dean Patterson? Right here, sender's name. So if I didn't change this, the email is going to come from Dean Patterson. So I'm going to go in here and I can change this to say, we'll just do Pat. Okay? But it's not going, we're not going to fill up my youth directors or my AB. We're not going to fill their email up if they reply to it for something because they had a question, because then they're going to go, why am I getting this reply? Like, what is this? Or then they'll forward it to you or what have you. So if you don't want the replies to go to them for this particular thing, put your email address there, as long as the sending domain is what you have. So, for example, Jennifer@Suran.com. I could put Alex on here. I could put Sherry on here. As long as it's Suran.com, it's going to work. If I do like office@eastmarketchurch.com, it's not going to work. Here's why. This SMTP account right here, it says Suran. That's because they're using our SMTP hosting. And so that is set for the @Suran.com. If you had something else, like Gmail or things like that, or you're not using ours, then it would show in there. So this particular server is set to go out, use this domain to send out. Does that make sense? So if you change the email address to like your personal one, and then you send it and you get it saying all kinds of errors, check your sender's email, because chances are you changed it and that's not what the hosting thing is for. Now, if this is an email that I'm just sending it for Pat, and Pat needs those emails, replies, like if somebody's replying to them, then I want to put that email address on there, right? So just, again, think with the end in mind. If they're going to reply, who needs to get that reply? Then use that email there. If you want to add attachments, you can simply click Add Attachment. It's going to bring up your thing. We'll add the QR code. You can add a PDF document. I do this all the time because let's take my ladies' Bible study. I send them their outline for the week. So I go in, I add that attachment. I can add a couple of attachments, and then when they get it, they get their outline for the week. So you can do that. Yes, ma'am? Yep. Okay. Sorry.
I didn't halfway get
I just saw you looking like, is it okay to ask a question now?
One thing that I'm finding when I'm sending out messages is that if I want to like unclick some of them
Mhm.
because I'm like you said, they don't need it, and I hit save and then I go to hit send before, everybody's listed, so I have to clear out, I have to go back in, I have to choose it again, and then it'll choose those people. I have to do it twice almost every single time.
Really? Well, we'll test that because I don't, and we'll definitely test it because, Kai, this email is, if this is a legit email address, that will be funny. So, because I don't see that when I do it for the church, but we also could be on a different version, so we could test this.
Right, because I'm working on an email.
Yeah.
I took someone out and then I saved
Yep.
and then I did something else and I went back and he's back on it.
Okay, so I do know there's something, let me make sure I'm right. You're deselecting somebody, you click save, and you're out. Then you go straight to hit send, and it has all, in our case, it would have all 4.
I'm not editing anything, it's just going to where you get to the point where you can send the email.
So let's test the bug. Beauty is, if this does it, that means we reproduced it, and we can put it up so that they can fix it. So we'll hit send email, which is our next step. And what this is going to do, it doesn't send it right away. It gives you a confirmation. And see, I have the 2. You're like, huh. So it's working for this. Did you just do it? While they're looking, so this here, if you want the staff to get a copy of all the emails that are sent, you can set that, and they will always have it in there. In those preferences, under emails, you can set who gets those staff emails across the board. If I don't want this Dean Patterson to get an email, I can just simply exit out for that particular one. And then if you want to do the notice there at the bottom of that email I showed you, that comes from in here. So you could do like a little privacy notice if you want. It held it. I knew, so I can tell you too with that, there was a bug for that. I thought it was fixed, but I'm like, we definitely will test it. Yeah, so it had been out there because I remember seeing it and actually putting it up, but I thought so. So I'm glad that it is fixed. So then when you click send, actually before I hit send, down at the bottom, this send test, if you click send test, and it's going to give it to you without the filled in information. So don't panic and say it doesn't work. Send it to an actual email that will fill in that information on there, okay? Because it's just letting you see what the layout of the email looks like. So we sending this email. So it's going to pop up here. If you're going to get an error in here, that's where it'll be. And it usually you can kind of tell what it is. It's too funny. I did this at the hotel, and it was just like lightning. This outbox, if you have any problems with it, you can see where they had tried and what the error was, like invalid sending and things like that. It's not showing what we just sent because it's out. They sent it, okay? So those are like emails that didn't get sent out. So it's telling you how many were sent and remaining. So we're going to hit close. Let's go check our email. Let's see what it looks like. Look, I have an email from Pat. So, to Gage, summer camp. Dear Gage, thank you for registering camp. We're excited to see you. You registered for. These are those, remember when we filled in those activities? There they are. There's the activities. You paid $100 toward it, so you have a balance of, oh, I didn't add a space. That's what happens when you don't add a space before putting in your thing. $6. That is due the day of camp. Make sense? And it gives, because remember I put church in there to show you that you could do things, so it gives him the church that he registered under. If he would have put Woodlawn or Cuyahoga Falls or things like whatever church they registered under is going to show when you bring over that church field. Click here to register. When we were showing the hyperlink, if you click it, right up, and it's going to take you to where they could register. And of course, we've done it, so it's telling me registration is complete. But it would take you to where they can create a new registration and they can see it. Or whatever link. You could put that link to be your website. When they click it, it's going to take them right to the website. Whatever it is, you can choose whatever hyperlink you want. When they click that, it's going to go to whatever link or site you put in that hyperlink. Any questions so far? I have seen a story for that. So what she's saying is if you have the youth pastor that registers, 15 kids using the same email for whatever the event is, camp is different because it goes to the registrant's email. Because notice, this is what I said yesterday. This was Gage's email.
It does the same thing for camp, because the parents' email is where we send it.
Yeah. If you put the parents' email for both, so if there's more than one registrant with the same email, it's only sending it to one. I'll need to, and I'll confirm this while they're talking. I believe there's actually a story out for that it will send it, no matter what, because it's a different registrant. But I'll confirm that. I'll go and look up that story and see. I know why they're doing it, but I also see the need for having that, because you do have that. If you're a parent that registers, 3 kids, they are 3 different activities, or so it's not even merging all of the things, because it's, 3 different registrations. So I'll look at that and get back with you, regarding that, because I have heard that before. But the email looks great. If I would have centered the summer camp thing, it would have been centered, and so on. And notice who it came from. Didn't come from me, but if I was to reply, it'll go to the Jennifer@Suran.com. Okay? And like I said, these notices are across the board. If you are looking at under membership, and I have individual emails, it's going to be the same thing, except I don't have the fields. Slide heart attack there. I don't have event registration fields. Notice that? Since I'm not in event registration, I don't need that information. This is for my individuals. So these fields have to do with either individual records or things that are connected to it. Like I have a church, individuals are connected to churches, right? Addresses are connected. Things that they're connected to like that. Those fields would be available for you that you can pull in. Same goes with church records, and you can do it, in that sense. So whatever window you're in, that's where you see it. Now, that all being said, let's go look at the registrations. I'll show you what it looks like when you're looking to see if a notice was sent. We're all pulling the Wi-Fi really hard today. All right, I believe I sent one to Jaden. There they are. So I did one yesterday. And notice the description. So remember yesterday, what did I have selected for when they registered? The high school camp confirmation. So it tells you the description of what they registered for. Sunday morning worship, that was my look at, make sure everything looks right this morning with certain fields. But we just did the training confirmation one, right? And it tells you the email address that it was sent to. So then if I was to go to Gage, it should have the office@eastmarketchurch.com email. So it tells you those emails and when they were sent and everything. you can click here and resend it, or you can view it and do that. The same goes for individual records, address records, church records. When you click on the notice tab, you're going to see what the notice was, when it was sent, who, and the email. Where I love this for state office, council member meetings, if you're not, did I send this out? When did we send this out? You can grab that information if you've done it inside CDM. Do you have to use CDM to send emails? Some of you guys are using Constant Contacts. But to me, now, we stopped because it was important to me to see the history of sending those emails out, right? And so I like that aspect of it. Yes, ma'am.
When you're going to view the notice that you sent, it's literally like the size of a domino.
Yeah.
Is there a way to make that bigger so I can be able to read it?
Right now, there is not, that there is something for that. All right, real quick, because I want to be able to let Randy and them come, I want to show you, when you're doing event registration reports, if you want to see, like, the list of what activities these people are for, you can create different custom listings. Custom listings, no matter where you're at in the system, are extremely powerful. Because when you click on this column here, you can put whatever you want in here. Well, that's a field that's available for that. So activities, these are the fields that I could put on my report. It gives you like a nice straight across report. You can also have it stacked. You can export this into Excel by simply clicking the Excel or numbers box, or just a basic file if you need to import it somewhere else. Whatever is here, you can print. So let's just say I want to put their first name, and I want to move over their last name, and I want to move over their payments. Let's add their balance due, and then let's look at the activities again. Where did it go? I jumped. Activity description. Oh, I also have some notes on that activity, don't I? Let me find that. Give me a second. I did this earlier. The activity description, you remember how they did notes? I am definitely overlooking this. When you do it with the notes and you want to see what the notes are, you can see that. Oh, there. I only said notes. Well, I was looking for notes. Let's look again. There it is. Okay. Knew I was like definitely overseeing the obvious. So in this case, I want first name, last name, how much they paid, their balance due, the different activities that they selected for that event, and any notes that they put in. I want to show striping, and let's just go ahead and show the line number too so I can have a quick count of people. You can put all these different options right here. I'm going to go ahead and click screen. We could go into so much detail on this. The Help Center does have a great article for custom listings and exports. And of course, we're always happy to show you more, but for the sake of time, we're not going to do that. Oh, I do want to show you one thing when we're done here. So here is the activity, junior high, and who registered for that activity. Because remember, I'm in activity custom listing export, not registration. So I'm looking at who's registered for junior high, who's registered for kids camp, and so on. Roommate preferences, Jaden. Now, if I was like, okay, I don't want that description over there because I know what the activity is going to be because it's listed there, and I want it sorted a different way. I don't maybe want it sorted by activity description. Maybe I want it sorted by something else. I like it sorted by activity description because what junior high, all junior high, and so on. But if you just wanted the names of the kids, or you wanted church, and all of them under the church, you can do that. And it would give you that, and you could just include the description and show unlimited possibilities here. Subtotal is going to subtotal those amounts, just like what we saw in there. You can also have it do like a grand total. So here's the totals for junior high, Here's the total for kids. Notice I don't have that duplicate because I removed that field, right? Roommate preferences, and there's that. But then here's the grand total of what's come in and the grand total of what's due. The key with these reports, any custom listing reports, is to think, what do I need to generate? When I talked yesterday about, I have a girl who, she rocks with this, with camp. We have sat over the years on the phone for an hour at least to go over and go through, and we played with things. So you could do like canteen cards, and we can print a list like, what do I need? Well, I need to go in here, I want the canteen cards, and so on. It's great. You can have unlimited. So the reports, play with them, look at them. They all look different. Master list gives you everything, or detail gives you everything. They look different. If you want it a specific way, play with the custom listing and export.